Hi, this is Larry the Barber Man of LarryTheBarberman.com, and today we are going to discuss zero gapping the Andis UK fade. Now, unlike some hair clippers, this is not just a process of undoing both screws, using your finger, pulling back the comb blade and tightening it. To zero gap this is a little bit more involved, but I'm going to simplify that whole process for you. So with that said, let's get down to it. In order to zero gap this clipper, the fade, we will need a security Torg screw attachment, which is basically a Torg screw with a hole in it. It's a security one, and that's why it's called the security, because it's got the hole. We will need a hexagonal attachment. We will need a flathead screwdriver, and we will need the Phillips screwdriver in order to loosen the two screws on the blade. So with that said, let's get down to it. First and foremost, we're going to loosen the four security Torg screws on the belly, which will then give us access to another two screws that we need to get to in order to perform the zero gap procedure. So first and foremost, get rid of these. I would strongly advise that you work on a corrugated mat. That way, when you finish taking the screws out, they've got somewhere to lodge whilst you're carrying out the procedure without losing them. So this is the last of the security Torg screws. I don't know if anyone saw my post earlier before creating this video on Instagram. I was recommended that you get the Titan 32-piece attachment set with the security Torg attachments in there. This has basically got everything that you need to carry out the zero gap process, apart from the Phillips screwdriver and apart from the flathead screwdriver. Everything's in there. Okay, so that's done. We basically now take off the belly. Also, before going any further, I should have said this at the beginning, take the blade off as well. And you really do need to take this blade off before carrying out the procedure, else you're going to be damaging stuff you shouldn't be damaging. Now we're in now. It's a good idea to take this one off, which is the bit of sponge, and basically give that a clean down as much as you can. This is the air blaster, which basically blasts out high pressures of air, and you can actually use it to clean down all your clippers and your blades. So once you've stripped it down in this position, it's a good idea to blast out all the hair that's lodged inside of it. It's also a really good idea, now that you know how to get into the hair clipper, to clean this down on a weekly basis, because over time this hair will compound and compound, and it comes to the point where the clipper can't actually breathe and your whole clipper's just jam-packed with hair. So you want to clear this out on a weekly basis to sustain the life of your hair clipper. Right, so that's all squeaky clean, or not squeaky clean, but clean enough to do what we have to do. Now, in order to perform the zero gap, we're going to have to move this arm, which is the armature, which is the arm that actually moves the clipper blade. We're going to need to bring that forward. Now, bringing the armature forward, that will in itself bring the cutting blade closer to the comb blade, and then we can tweak the zero gap process. But at the moment, that blade, this comb blade, which is the top blade, cannot get back to the cutting blade. So we're going to have to bring the cutting blade to the comb blade. That's what you're doing in this particular zero gap process. Now, how we move the armature, we move the armature by undoing these two screws. So I'll do that, and that's done with your hexagonal attachment. So basically just get in there, and you can look down the top of the clipper and see the position of the screws, but we need these quite loose but without coming out of the armature. Yeah. So once they're loose and tight enough, we then get the flat head screwdriver, and in this particular position here, we're just basically going to prise the armature forward. And in prising the armature forward, that's going to bring the blade forward. It's a good idea actually at this stage to put the cutting blade on. And the other blade, but what I didn't want to do at the beginning is show you this when it's actually attached, because if you do this when it's attached and you try and move the armature, this is still attached, so you're just going to end up stretching the machine and you would have achieved very little. So just put these in, but just tighten them just slightly. Just a slight tightening process. Bring the lever forward, and this is where you kind of start crafting your zero gap. Now you don't want it 0, 0, 0, because if it's 0, 0, 0, it can and may cut your client. So you just want it a few hair strands back. So I need to again just lift this, push it in that position now, and lift it up. It doesn't need to be exactly, you just need to take it back a little bit closer because we can tweak it at the end. But like I said, you don't want it to be 0, 0, 0, 0.1 or. Right, so now that's in position. We go back to the hexagonal and just start doing this gently, because any harsh movements you might move the position of the blade. So just go softly, softly, and alternating between the back and the front one, and then just increase the pressure as you go on, because then you know it's more in position to go ahead and tighten it. Alright, so that's with your hexagonal. So that's all in position now. We just test it. Right, so now, like I said to you, the cutting blade is the cutting blade is now in a high enough position to tweak the zero gap. Yeah, we haven't got so much ground to gain now that we've pulled the cutting blade to the cone blade. And then what you constantly have to do at this stage is just keep tightening it up from the left to the right, ensuring that the top blade is parallel with the bottom blade. You don't want them slanted, because if they're slanted, that means your cut's going to come out uneven, or you're going to cut your client. So just basically keep tweaking it from the left to the right, looking down the blade at all times. You see, I'm just giving it little turns of tightness, and then as they become tighter and tighter, you know the blade's not going to move, so then you can obviously increase the tension in which you're screwing it. I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up, but there you see, finally you have a zero gap on the Andis fade. So it's just a question of putting it all back together. Put the belly back on now. Screw that one back in now. There. that's that done. Right, one last final thing that I would strongly recommend after you finish the zero gapping process is to actually test the blade on the back of your arm, on the front of your arm, to ensure that it doesn't cut you. And the reason you're doing this cut, the last thing you want to do is perform a zero gap and it go and cut your client. So what you need to do is get this shop ready before actually taking it onto the shop. So I'll just show you. Okay, so what you do, now you've got your zero gap, you just turn it on, put it on the back of your arm. It's not breaking my skin, so I know it's good and it's good to go, ready to go onto the shop floor. So that's one Andis Fade UK hair clipper, zero gapped by Larry the Barber Man. If you found this video helpful, I would ask that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are plenty more videos on there, and I'm creating plenty more videos on tips and tricks on how to improve the performance of your hair clippers and how to modify them. So for now, Larry the Barber Man signing off.